think every real horror fan has had at least one experience of feeling out of place when compared with quote-unquote mainstream society, but I don't think there's ever been a really good attempt to understand why it is that people like horror. Like, most horror fans are generally normal people who have pretty good reasons for enjoying horror, but what are those reasons? The real reasons, not the ones they learn to tell people to make society leave them alone. That's what our podcast is about, interviewing people in the horror biz to find out what it is that they like about horror. My name's Steve, and I'm a bit of a psychology buff, and my co-host is my friend Chris, who's a horror buff. And so far, we've interviewed about 40 people in the biz and had a lot of fun with it, and we wanted to share with you some of those highlights. In this set of excerpts, we're going to share with you some of the fun stuff, but if you want to hear the real meat of the conversations, come check us out on Apple, Google, or Spotify, or you can just use a player on our website. In this set of excerpts, we're going to be talking to Barbie Wilde, Ashley Crewl, and Jeff Burk. And if you want to find out more about them, we have bio pages for them on the website as well.
My father built me this replica, sorry, I'm going to get emotional here, of the Enterprise and strung it between the two far posters of my, four-poster bed. It had a little green light in the bottom. So I would go to sleep and look at the Enterprise and think, one day I'm going to become an astrophysicist and invent a spaceship and get the off planet Earth and meet Captain Kirk with his perfect bum and, Mr. Spock with his fabulous intelligence. And, to me, that was like a bright, shining, hopeful moment with the whole Star Trek thing. But, I was 6 or 7. Another favorite program of my father's was The Twilight Zone by Rod Serling.
Of course.
I didn't have very many friends. I sort of changed my personality when I moved my last year of high school. I thought, I cannot leave without high school without getting some friends. So I joined drama club and I sort of went, I still had to get good grades. And one of my friends came up after they posted up the Honor Society. He said, Barbie, I didn't know you were smart. And I went, aha, that's really sad, isn't it? I had to play
That's almost a slightly insulting thing to say. I didn't know you were smart.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, dear. But anyway, nobody else.
That's nice, and I'm smart.
Yeah, but I think, our family, we always felt like outsiders, really. And I think that we, my dad and my brother had this total bond with science fiction. My mother wanted me to read little girl books, but my brother was slipping me, John Carter of Mars, Carson of Venus, Moon Maiden, all the Edgar Rice Burroughs books. And then I got into the Conan books, which is like, whoa, wonderful misogynistic stuff. And lots of sci-fi. And my father was an engineer. So, I wasn't particularly scientific, but he was. And so this whole the whole science fiction thing and the horror that went with it was all part of it. When I went to university, we had a cinema that was $1. And I saw A Clockwork Orange. Now, I don't know if you would consider that horror.
I would consider that, in the very least, a psychological horror.
Oh, God, yeah. It was brilliant. And I've been lucky enough to do some conventions with Malcolm McDowell and his stories about the making of it. It's like, oh, my God. He actually nearly went blind because that thing they put to keep his eyes open and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, was probably one of the most shocking films I saw when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And because it had this very brutal rape in it at the beginning. And it's like, oh, my God. Right. Well, actually, no, she manages to escape.
Yeah.
But, holy kid, there's a naked person. I'd never.
Yeah. I think I had seen Clockwork Orange when I was 14 first, and then later on, my friends and I decided it would be a good idea to watch it on LSD, and that was a terrible idea in retrospect.
Oh, no. Oh, jeez.
Why would you do that?
Again, terrible idea in retrospect. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, and then we're just, 30 minutes into it, like, should we be watching?
This was a bad idea.
This is a bad idea. I must admit, seeing, I would never want to do that. I remember seeing, I was in my 20s by this point, and hey, let's go and see Alien. It sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I just being utterly horrified. I actually was watching the beginning of the movie with my hands in front of my face, and my boyfriend at the time said, I paid £8 for us to see this movie.
You're going to watch this. I paid for
it. There's another one of my favorites that I love is called, I'm sort of going now into more my adult choices, is Audition. It's a Japanese film.
Oh.
It starts out as this little romantic comedy.
Yeah, it takes a while for it to pick up, but when it does,
it's genius, absolute genius. And as in many ways, it's the same as From Dusk Till Dawn. It starts out as this sort of psychopaths on the run caper movie, and then all of a sudden, holy shit, Selma Hayek turns into a vampire. Woohoo! Mm-hmm. And
I love movies that do that.
Oh, but see, this is like, people, wow, it's cross genre. You shouldn't really do that. Well, f you. I love that.
You should. How about that?
Exactly. Oh, my friend said,
never let anyone should on you.
Yeah, exactly. It's bad.
Was horror already cropping up in your artwork when you were a kid?
Oh, yes, it
was. That sounds like a story.
Makes me think that, yeah. It sounds like your parents are probably very supportive of your interest in horror. But did you maybe have some teachers that were like, "So we need to talk about this. This person is dismembered in this
right? Yes, I had a couple times of run-ins. Yes, with teachers, mostly in high school, because actually in middle school. Here's a cool thing. My ceramics teacher was Kyra Schoen, who was the little girl in the basement of Night of Living Dead, the original one who ate her dad's arm.
Way. Yeah.
She was my ceramics teacher. So, I had that backing me up. Like, she loved my stuff, right? But once I get into high school, I don't have that connection with anyone. So the stuff that I started making, I made in a sculpture class like this. He wanted us to make like a little model figurine of something that inspires us. So I made this little figurine of some guy in a hoodie with like a decapitated head in his hand. And I did like this hot glue, like dripping, and made it look like blood dripping. It was like so cool. Right. And he's just like, what is this? How is that inspiration? I was like, because I really love horror and I want to like try to make stuff like this. I was like, how cool would it be if I could make like toys or something like this? He was not having that. These teachers and they threw away my 6-foot zombie I made without even asking me.
I love the exasperation in your voice when you said
I'm like still pissed about this, okay? Because I
am pissed for you. You should sue them. That's liable. That's defamation of property, intellectual something.
Put in a dumpster. And yeah, I had him set up in the hallway in school. I
love that Chris is mixing and mashing legal.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
I'm coming for them now that I know. But he was. I set him up in the hallway. I put all these details in him. He was made out of plaster, wood. He had clothes on. He had this big, crazy head, big, gnarly teeth.
Glad he had clothes on.
And I had him oh yeah, he did. He was a big old monster in the high school hallway. Wouldn't really work out, right?
Well, it was an art school.
Yeah, but they didn't like a zombie, let alone they left, So because it was scaring people in the hallway, I didn't come to school one day and they took it out and threw it away. Yeah, and it was staff. It wasn't kids or anything, So that kind of sucks. I can't say I've picked up any phobias. I've always had a phobia of feet. They're nasty. Okay. Like how people are afraid of clowns and stuff like that. That stuff doesn't, I have never gotten a phobia from a movie. I can't say that.
You should stay away from Tarantino movies. He likes feet.
No, I know he does. It's disgusting. Yeah, I will punch a f***er if they put a foot on me.
Very tempted now.
No one get knocked out.
I'll break that toe.
You're gonna travel that far to get on.
Come get some. Let's see. Adult years then. You mentioned Serbian film. What else? What else in your adult years really touched you, shall we say?
Oh, well, we don't want to.
Well, I mean, in horror.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
That's yeah, I was gonna say, that's a different podcast too.
Peter Jackson, what the are you doing nowadays? Like, can you please go back to horror?
Go back to your roots, please.
That other shit. Lord of the Rings, go yourself. I want Peter Jackson back in horror and bad taste. I want that stuff.
Mm-hmm. You know, people getting chopped up with lawnmowers and shit.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Do you see any common threads about what kinds of horror you like? Cannibalism, occult, metaphysical, body horror?
Man, I do love me some cannibalism, actually. You'll get a load of that in my short. So
what is it you like about cannibalism?
I do love cannibalism. Eating people, obviously. Like, you can't just walk down the street and go like, hey, let me fucking eat your arm.
Mm-hmm.
I even want to, like, I watch these documentaries about like real cannibalism and whatnot. And it's like,
yeah, like Isasawa.
Yeah, but they don't really give you any good. They'll be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go talk to this guy who probably ate somebody, and then he's like, yeah, he probably ate somebody. Man, this, like, this, let's see them eating people.
Where's the beef?
Yeah, where's the beef?
They kind of really heavily discouraged me from children's media. That they like, I didn't really grow up watching like children's shows or children's movies. Like there's shit tons of really mega popular like kids movies that everyone that was a kid has seen and I never saw. And it wasn't that I wasn't like allowed to watch them, but if I showed like interest in a children's movie or like a 1950s sci-fi film, my parents pushed me to the 1950s sci-fi film. Or
okay,
like,
I just have to quickly ask two questions.
Yes.
Secret of Nim?
Never seen it.
Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was an adult.
Okay.
All right, we can continue the call.
Now, I don't know how or why this happened, but I remember this. I somehow only saw the last half of the movie, and it fucking traumatized me. I had nightmares for months. No, everyone laughs about this. Everyone laughs. But then when I was a teenager, I finally went back to Gremlins. I'm like, oh my God, I remember this when I was little. Like, this was so terrifying. And then I watched it, and it turns out it's a goddamn comedy. I had no idea. And if you just watch like the second half of the movie, if you go back and look at just that second half, when you've removed the kind of like the context of the first half, like it's like to a tiny little kid, like it's traumatizing. Like I didn't see cute cuddly Gizmo. I only saw these lizard humanoid things running around and terrorizing people in the snow.
It's a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
It's a great Christmas movie because Santa Claus dies in the chimney. Like
that makes it a great Christmas movie.
I hate Santa Claus. I hate a lot of things with Christmas. So Gremlins is kind of my jam.
Got it. Did you participate in Halloween as a child?
Yes. Oh yeah, the Halloween questions. Yeah. I loved Halloween as a kid. It was and it still is my favorite holiday.
All right.
I'm going to get ahead of you here and asking the questions. I don't really remember any costumes. It wasn't the costumes thing that really got me with Halloween. What did you like about it? I liked was the Halloween parties and every place showing horror movies and the Halloween specials. For some reason, I've never really been a costume person. I'm still not to this day. I almost never dress up for Halloween. Like I've maybe wore a costume once in the past 15 years for Halloween. Okay, wow. It's just not my thing. What I really like doing is going out and seeing other people's costumes. I get bored very easy. I have been diagnosed with rather strong
squirrel
adult ADHD, which I'm sure everyone listening to this has already gathered and figured out by now. But
I think about everyone over the age of, I would say, 30 or 35 has some degree of ADD at this point.
3 miles from the Pennsylvania-Maryland state line in the middle of nowhere. And nearby, right on the other side of it, in Maryland, a little movie by the name of the Blair Witch Project was filmed.
Oh.
And so I saw Blair Witch Project at a local theater before it blew up. And it scared the shit out of me. It was one of those times, and like we lived in the woods, so I went from the movie theater to my house that was literally in the woods, and I had a hard time going to sleep that night, let me tell you. And I remember being so scared in the theater watching that movie, and also being like, thinking like to myself at the time, like, I love this. I want to be involved with this when I grow up. I want to make other people feel this way. I love this. That was a big one.
Okay.
Cool. I will put this up to the universe. Hopefully someone important will hear this. I'm fucking dying for a Grendel movie, because Grendel Warchild was it was like a 10 issue or 12 issue miniseries that, okay, we've had The Dark Knight, we've had Watchmen, we've had, I'm trying to think what other crazy
Preacher.
movie recently.
Preacher lasted for a 4-season television series, and I know a lot of comic book fans of Preacher complained about it.
Well, here's what I'm getting
was there at the very beginning, and I fucking loved it. Like, Grendel can happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is the world, I think, today is ready for it. Back in the 90s, there's no way in hell they could have greenlit a Grendel Warchild movie, but the world's ready for it now.
Yeah, I mean, shit, we have a TV series of The Boys. So I'd say
blows
we're
my
good on Grendel now.
fucking mind that happened, because I read as I already brought up, I was a fan of Preacher, so obviously a fan of Garth Ennis, and I read The Boys as it came out issue by issue, and the very fact that we have a legitimately good television series of it, I keep thinking like 9-year-old to like 20-year-old me would have never remotely have believed what media has turned into now. And I mean in a positive way. Like, this is what I was hoping to see.
So yeah, come check us out over at horrormakeshappy.com, or check out some of our other excerpts until you find someone whose interview you do want to hear.